In the legal world, there is a combination of forces that feed a corrupt and suffocating legal system for attorneys. Law schools, law professionals, judges, and even the firms themselves for whom you work create a system, a matrix, if you will, that is nothing like what you thought when you passed the bar exam. The purpose of this podcast is to help you escape this legal matrix, leading you out of the proverbial desert to be free of the bondage of the matrix. Hosted by Bryce D. Nyer, attorney at law with over 30 years experience in the trenches of civil and criminal litigation at the state, federal, and international levels. He's a highly accomplished and resourceful legal professional, a true master of his craft, and he's here to help you get your life back. Here's your host, Bryce D. Nyer.
All right. This is Bryce D. Nyer coming at you live from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg, where every day men and women do what? They don the uniform and go out there and wage war and fight the enemy to preserve the very rights that we so often take for granted. What a great day. Great weather out today. And I'm having this hot tea with honey in it that my staff made for me before they left, so I could sit here and speak to you all personally, individually. I love talking to y'all. It's great. It's my favorite thing when I get here on the podcast to escape the legal matrix. It's not all doom and gloom. I assure you it's not. The purpose of Escape the Legal Matrix is to let you law students, you lawyers, and anybody else out there in any business know that you can improve your life, progress in the domains of body, being balanced in business, because I've done it. And it's an everyday job. It's an everyday mission. It never ends. So listen, we've got a great subject to talk about tonight. In fact, all of my subjects are great to talk about. Just ask me, because I'll tell you. And if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Just kidding. But look, tonight's episode, guess what we're going to talk about? We're talking about enemies. Yeah, I know. It's something that you might think is like Debbie Downer, but it's not. So here's the reality. In life, especially as a lawyer, you can't please everybody. It's impossible. And no matter how much you try, no matter how much you do, no good deed goes unpunished. I know it doesn't feel good. It's a horrible lesson, but it's true. You can do a lot for other people and they just don't appreciate it. And sometimes they resent you and sometimes they become your enemy no matter how much you do. But the reality is, as a lawyer and even as a law student, you're going to get enemies. People are not going to like you. And sometimes they may not like you because you are moving forward, you're moving up, you're improving, and they're stagnating, and they can't stand it for you to succeed. This is true. People don't think it's true, but it is. And you'll see this most often when you graduate from high school, and then years later, whether it's 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 years, I don't know, whatever it is, and you have made major achievements in your life. You have progressed. And some of these people have stayed stuck in time at age 17 or 18, and they're doing the same thing they did when they were in high school and have not changed. They're the same person, just older. And then they see the success you've had, and they hate you for it because it reminds them of what they failed to do. Now, not everybody's going to achieve everything they want in life. I mean, there have been things I didn't achieve. There were times when I quit, gave up. I did. It's true. Then there are other times I moved forward despite the obstacles, despite the challenges. And it can be extremely difficult. There are days when I honestly just didn't want to deal with stuff. I did not want to get up, go outside. I didn't want to go to court. I didn't want to see any clients. And the enemies are just not your opposing counsel or the judges or the courthouse staff, your own staff, the clients. I mean, sometimes the worst enemy you have is you. And that has happened in my life. For example, we'll go over some of the domains, like in body. There are times like, man, I just don't want to get up. I don't want to work out. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to go do it. I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I don't want to do with it. Or I ate some food or had like Mountain Dew, things I wasn't supposed to have because I sedated. And then I wondered why I wasn't achieving the results in my body and physical fitness and physique that I wanted. And I became my worst own enemy in being. My relationship with Jesus and God. Okay, I did some really insane and stupid crap during my life. I broke all the 10 commandments. I committed sins. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not a club you want to belong to, and you don't want to do it. But the truth is, all humans sin. But men and women, human beings, become their worst own enemy when they cave to temptations, and you will, and you backslide. That's going to happen. So in that domain of being, you can become your own worst enemy because God gives you free will. Some people see free will as a burden, but the truth is God made it a benefit. Because just like you can't make somebody love you, you want them to love you, like God does. Or in the domain of balance. Okay, this term balance. You know, I heard this thing this weekend, this video. I'm like, sometimes I don't even know what balance is. Okay, it's not just vacations and all the other stuff. It's a combination of setting limits on invasion into your peace, into your inner space from work or other people or other businesses or entities or vendors, whatever it is. And we are, as lawyers, the worst at trying to have this so-called definition of work-life balance. Whatever you want to phrase it, we are. Because we try and please everybody. And then we sabotage ourselves into a stroke or a heart attack. And then we end up divorced, going through alimony, child custody, child support, property division, all of this insanity because we sabotaged ourselves in this domain of balance. And then you have business. Okay, let's get down to that. Look, 1.3 million lawyers in this country, but not 1.3 million leaders. And most of the lawyers are business stupid. They live in scarcity. They don't know their numbers. They don't monitor it. They don't know. And this has happened to me too. I became my worst own enemy. There were times when I wasn't paying attention. I was so I allowed myself to become distracted, not paying attention to the business aspect. Wondering why isn't the business there? Why aren't the leads there? What? Oh, I didn't pay enough in taxes? Oh, can't mess with them guys, IRS. They want their money. So other times I overpaid in taxes, like a lot, because I didn't pay attention. So there was an opportunity cost of money that I could have invested. So the enemies just aren't going to be your opposing counsel. They're not just going to be the irate judges, some of which who should not be on the bench at all, under any circumstance. Or they're going to be courthouse personnel that are not qualified to do their jobs, that may even be jealous of you because they wanted to go to law school, but they couldn't cut it because they didn't want to make the sacrifice and do the work. Or it's going to be your spouse or a family member. Or somebody in your immediate family, but you are going to have enemies. There are enemies at the gate all the time. There are. It's been that way since the Garden of Eden, okay? Since Adam and Eve. The enemy, Satan. Then sin entered the world. Then we had Cain and Abel, one brother killing another brother. And so then as you read in the Old Testament, basically the progression of the Jews and, moving forward in time, all the wars and battles, enemies they had. And in the Bible, it's just filled with enemies. Enemies are around all the time, and they're around us today. Nothing has changed since Adam and Eve, okay? Nothing. The only thing that has changed with human beings is the technology with which we wage war against each other. That's it. The technology. Other than that, we are the same. Flesh, blood, and bone, okay? That's what we are. And inside our bodies are the soul, our conscience, which is the Spirit of God talking to us. When we screw up, we know when we do wrong. But a lot of times, really, honestly, we self-sabotage. We God almighty, we're just our worst enemies some days. Even me. And I don't care how rich you are, a billionaire, a millionaire, or whether you're poverty-stricken. It doesn't matter. Human beings are human beings, and sometimes they are their own worst enemies. Even billionaires going to prison, going to jail, being accused of sexual crimes, true or not, some of them probably are not true. And then some of them are. They created the circumstances which led to their downfall. You look at the empires that have gone on through human history. The Roman Empire, okay, the Ottoman Empire, the Soviet Union, communist China, still communist, but the reality is Mao Zedong, it didn't work out too well, okay? You look at socialism down in South America. It's not working out. They're their own worst enemy because their lust for power, their lust for sex, their greed, all of this comes into play. And then they wonder why their worlds ultimately fall apart and why ultimately they get kicked out or killed. It's like Napoleon. He was his own worst enemy. He was arrogant. General Custer, arrogant. He got killed. He got slaughtered. Adolf Hitler. arrogant, his own worst enemy, besides the fact he was just a maniac and evil. He opened two fronts at the same time, and eventually by April 30th, 1945, when he blew his brains out, committed suicide, it was all over for the Third Reich. And then they formally surrendered May 7th and 8th of 1945, depending upon which time zone you're in, who they surrendered to, the Americans or the Russians. So the point I'm making here is that every human being, the biggest enemy they have is the enemy within. That is what I have discovered in my life. And there's ways to fight that. This is why you have to have the solid foundations of body and being and balance in business. It's true. If one of those domains is really off, it is going to have a domino effect. It is going to affect the other domains. And if not checked, if left unchecked, it will destroy you. It will destroy you. I've gone through this in my life many times, lawyers and lawsuits. I'm telling you. I'm not telling you anything that I've not experienced. I'm not asking you to do anything that I have not done. I mean, back in 2018, when I joined Wake Up Warrior, I realized, man, I have a problem. I'm in a hell of a mess in these domains of body, being, balance, and business. And then when I joined Pivot 2 years ago, with the CEO being the brother of the main guy, Garrett J. White, who's in Wake Up Warrior, and then Trevor J. White, who leads Pivot, instrumental. Bryce Prescott, yeah, my guy that produced my podcast, superb. I started surrounding myself with men and with women that had been through the pits and the hells of life that had prevailed. Because who you surround yourself with is who you're going to be. What you consume in your body is how you're going to turn out. You drink a case of beer a week, you're going to get fat. Your liver's going to die, and you're going to be sluggish. You ignore God, and you'll pay a price. You ignore your spouse, and they'll find somebody else. You ignore your bank accounts, and you'll go broke. And you'll become your worst own enemy. But it doesn't have to be that way. There's choices you can make. There's actions you can take. And look, I know it's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult fighting the enemies. I'm doing it myself, even now. Like today, I had to deal with major things today. And I just came in and said, I got to deal with this. I got to help one of my family members out. I've got to deal with this. It involves life and death. It involves life and death. I had to make phone calls and do stuff and just, I had to focus on it no matter how painful it was. No matter how painful it was. I had to overcome my frustration. I had to overcome my anger. I had to overcome the bureaucracy of the legal system and take action and contact and hire people that can get stuff done. So I had to beat the enemy at the gates. And who was the enemy? It was me. Because I was frustrated. I didn't want to deal with it, but I have to. I couldn't let it go. Because it affects somebody living or dying. I could not let it go. And there are going to be times in your life, and look, the enemy's going to be at the gates. And I'm going to tell you something. You're going to have to get up, put your big girl or big boy panties on, all right? And you're going to have to wage holy war against the enemy. And sometimes that enemy is going to be yourself. And if you don't sit there, if you don't assess, if you don't audit where you are in the domains of body, being, balance, and business, if you don't do that, you're not going to see the weak link in the chain. You're not going to see the Trojan horse coming through the gate. You know how that turned out. You're just not. You got to wake up. You got to be alert. And you got to take action. And you got to be willing to fight the enemy face to face. Face to face. Think of how many people in human history have gone out on battlefields where the odds were against them. The enemy was right there. In real life, real wars. David and Goliath. World War II. Think about World War II during D-Day. 101st Airborne cut off. The Nazi general tell him, hey, man, you better surrender or we're going to come basically take you out. And what the one-star general say? He said, nuts. What that means is go screw yourself. Okay? And hey, finally Patton's people arrived and they just beat the Nazis down and kept moving forward out of Belgium, into Germany, and onward and forward to defeat the Nazis. Think of men and women in life that did not give up and gave their lives to fight the enemies, no matter who they were or what they were. So what I want to do is I want to leave you tonight with this positive message. you can prevail. It will be difficult. It will be painful. There will be people that you will have to break the relationship with, and they'll have to leave your life. You'll have to leave them. There will be companies, there will be businesses, there will be vendors, friendships that you will have to break and sever yourself from. Those type of enemies. But the thing about it is, the enemy that resides in you, you're gonna have to defeat them too. It's like Trevor J. White told me, when I was talking about, I'm gonna be honest with you, when I was talking about moving down to the coast. And what Trevor said, hey, look, you can go down there, you can move to the coast, but here's the deal. You still take you with you, no matter where you go. And I thought about that, like, you know what, he's right. You can change the latitude and longitude of wherever you locate, but you still take you with you. Because your internal GPS just leads right back to you. So, law students and lawyers, look, your life doesn't have to suck. It doesn't have to be eroded by the legal matrix. You don't have to have strokes and heart attacks in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. You don't. You don't have to divorce. You don't have to lose your marriages. You don't. You don't have to become addicted to drugs or addicted to porn or addicted to alcohol. And most lawyers have. I've gone through 2 divorces. I'm sedated. I've done things I wish I'd never done. I've committed sins I wish I'd never committed. That's the truth. That's the absolute truth. Until I awakened one day to me. And the old me had to die. It just had to die. The old me had to die, and the new me had to be born. And call it what you want. So this is a message of inspiration. This is a message of hope. This is a message of taking action. This is a message of you can do it. It's not a message of defeat. It's not. It's a message of light and moving forward. And when I come here and I talk to all of you, I'm going to tell you something. When I sit here in this room, I feel like all of you are right here. I feel like we're just having this great conversation, like we've been friends for life. It's a nice fall day on the beach in a fire pit, just chilling out, listening to great music, and having real, raw, and relevant conversations. That's the way I feel when I come here right here to record this podcast. And I'm going to tell you something. That's a great thing because you all are great. Everyone to be out there listening to this. So ask the better question. Where in your world are the enemies? And what do you need to do to defeat them? What actions do you need to take? All right. This is Bryce Dyer coming at you live from where? Where? Coming at you live from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg. Thank the Lord they changed the name back to Fort Bragg. That's what it should always stay. I know. I can say that because I've lived here for a long time and I was in the Army, so I'm going to say it. So listen, love and light, and we will catch you on the next episode of Escape the Legal Matrix. This is Bryce, and I am out of here.